Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a place so dangerous that just existing there feels like playing Russian roulette with your life every single day? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into some of the most nightmarish places on Earth, where people actually call home despite conditions that would make most of us pack our bags and run for the hills without looking back. I'm talking about towns where the very air you breathe could kill you, where natural disasters strike with the regularity of a morning alarm clock, and where the ground beneath your feet might literally be on fire. These aren't fictional horror movie settings. These are real places with real people who wake up every morning knowing they're living on borrowed time. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. By the end of this video, you'll discover that some of these seemingly cursed locations actually have residents who refuse to leave despite offers of relocation and government assistance. The question is, why would anyone choose to stay in what can only be described as hell on Earth? Let's start our journey in Pennsylvania with a town that's been burning for over 60 years. Centralia was once a thriving coal mining community of over 1,000 residents, but today it's home to fewer than 10 people living above what's essentially an underground inferno that shows no signs of stopping. Back in 1962, a fire started in the town's landfill and somehow managed to spread into the vast network of abandoned coal mines beneath the streets. What began as a small waste fire turned into an unstoppable underground blaze that continues to burn today, consuming an estimated 25 million tons of coal. The effects on daily life are absolutely terrifying. Residents reported ground temperatures reaching over 900 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt the soles of your shoes if you stood in the wrong spot for too long. Deadly gases like carbon monoxide seep through cracks in the ground, turning every breath into a potential death sentence. But perhaps most disturbing of all, sinkholes randomly open up, swallowing entire sections of road and threatening to drag anything or anyone into the fiery depths below. Imagine walking to your mailbox and suddenly the ground gives way beneath you, revealing a glowing orange pit of hell that stretches down into darkness. The government eventually declared the town uninhabitable and offered to relocate all residents, but a handful of people refused to leave. They've spent decades living in what can only be described as a real-life version of the underworld, complete with smoke rising from the ground and an eternal flame burning beneath their feet. Now let's travel to Russia, where an entire city exists in conditions that would make the Arctic seem tropical. Norilsk sits above the Arctic Circle and experiences some of the most extreme weather conditions on the planet, but that's not even the worst part about living there. This industrial city was built around mining operations that have turned the surrounding landscape into a toxic wasteland. The air is so polluted with heavy metals and sulfur dioxide that snow turns black shortly after falling, and the average life expectancy is 10 years shorter than the rest of Russia. During the polar night, which lasts for 2 months, residents don't see sunlight at all, living in complete darkness while enduring temperatures that regularly drop below -40 degrees. But even when the sun returns, the city remains shrouded in a perpetual haze of industrial pollution that blocks out natural light. The soil around Norilsk is so contaminated that nothing grows for miles in any direction. Satellite images show a dead zone stretching across the landscape where the earth itself has been poisoned beyond recovery. Rivers run red with mining runoff, and the air tastes of metal and chemicals. Yet over 170,000 people call this frozen, toxic hellscape home. Many residents develop respiratory problems, skin conditions, and other health issues directly linked to the environmental contamination. But economic necessity keeps them trapped in what environmental scientists consider one of the most polluted places on Earth. Moving to a different kind of nightmare. Let's examine Miyakojima Island in Japan, where residents live alongside an active volcano that regularly threatens to wipe them off the map. This small island has been evacuated multiple times due to volcanic activity, but people keep returning despite the obvious dangers. The most recent major eruption began in 2000 and forced the complete evacuation of all 8,000 residents. For 5 years, the island remained uninhabitable as the volcano continued spewing toxic hydrogen sulfide gas into the atmosphere. When residents were finally allowed to return in 2005, they had to carry gas masks at all times. Living on Miyakojima means accepting that at any moment, sirens could blare warning of dangerous gas levels, forcing everyone to immediately put on protective equipment or risk being poisoned by the very air around them. Children grow up learning to carry gas masks to school the same way kids elsewhere might carry backpacks. The island's landscape is constantly changing as new lava flows reshape the terrain and volcanic ash regularly blankets homes and businesses. Residents have adapted to this surreal existence, but the psychological toll of living under constant threat of volcanic disaster is something most people couldn't imagine enduring. But perhaps nowhere on Earth presents a more consistently lethal environment than the Danakil Desert in Ethiopia. This region sits at the junction of three tectonic plates, creating a landscape that seems designed to kill anything that ventures into it. Temperatures regularly soar above 125 degrees Fahrenheit, making it one of the hottest inhabited places on the planet. But extreme heat is just the beginning of the challenges faced by the Afar people, who have somehow managed to survive in this hellish environment for generations. The ground is covered with salt flats that stretch to the horizon, broken only by active volcanoes that continuously reshape the landscape. Sulfur springs bubble up from the earth, releasing toxic gases that can kill within minutes. Acid pools dot the terrain, creating a rainbow of unnatural colors that beauty masks their deadly nature. Perhaps most terrifying of all, the ground itself is slowly sinking as tectonic forces pull the region apart. Scientists predict that within millions of years this area will be completely underwater, but for now it remains a burning wasteland where survival requires knowledge passed down through generations of desert dwellers. The Afar people have developed incredible resilience and adaptation strategies that allow them to thrive where others would perish within hours. They harvest salt from the deadly flats trade across the harsh landscape and maintain communities in conditions that would challenge the most advanced survival equipment. These examples might seem extreme, but they raise fascinating questions about human adaptability and what we're willing to endure for the sake of home. Each of these places has residents who could theoretically leave but choose to stay, despite conditions that most of us would consider completely unlivable. In Centralia, the remaining residents speak of deep family roots and connections to the land that run deeper than fear of underground fires. They've adapted their daily routines around the dangers, creating a new normal that includes checking ground temperature before walking and avoiding certain areas known for gas emissions. Similarly, in Norilsk, many residents were born and raised in the city and have developed social networks and survival strategies that make life bearable despite the harsh conditions. The extreme environment has created a unique culture of resilience and community solidarity that residents are reluctant to abandon. What's particularly striking is how these communities develop their own internal logic for managing extraordinary risks. Children in these places grow up with survival skills and environmental awareness that would seem paranoid anywhere else, but are absolutely essential for daily life in their hometowns. The psychological adaptation required to live in such places reveals incredible human flexibility and determination. These residents have essentially recalibrated their risk tolerance and developed coping mechanisms that allow them to function normally in environments that would terrify most people. But there's also a darker side to these stories. Economic necessity often plays a major role in keeping people in dangerous places. Jobs, mining operations, and family obligations can trap residents even when they recognize the risks they're taking by staying. Government responses to these situations vary widely. Some authorities actively encourage relocation and provide assistance, while others ignore the problems entirely. The residents of these nightmare towns often find themselves caught between impossible choices with limited resources and support. The health impacts of living in such extreme environments are well documented but often overlooked in discussions of these places. Respiratory problems, shortened life expectancy, and stress-related illnesses are common among residents, but healthcare resources are typically limited in such remote or dangerous locations. Perhaps most importantly, these towns serve as early warning systems for environmental challenges that could affect larger populations as climate change and industrial development continue reshaping our planet. The residents of these nightmare locations are essentially living previews of conditions that might become more widespread in the future. Their experiences offer valuable lessons about human adaptability, community resilience, and the true costs of environmental degradation. While most of us will never face such extreme living conditions, we can learn from how these communities have adapted to seemingly impossible circumstances. The next time you complain about your neighborhood, remember that somewhere in the world people are living above underground fires, breathing toxic air, and carrying gas masks to protect themselves from volcanic emissions. These nightmare towns remind us that human determination and adaptability know few limits even when facing conditions that seem designed to make life impossible. What would it take for you to abandon your home? These residents have answered that question in the most extreme way possible by choosing to stay, despite conditions that would send most of us running. Their stories challenge our assumptions about what makes a place livable and reveal the incredible lengths people will go to maintain their sense of home and community.